want to welcome all of our friends from of Canyon View Vineyard Church, and we're here in my office right now with Facebook Live, and I'm here with a couple of very special people to me. And this, on my right, your left, is Janelle Westerman. And Westermeyer. And Janelle is the daughter of Harry Butler, who many of you, if you've lived in Grand Junction very long, you know the name of Harry Butler. And I got to say, Harry, when I first got here as a pastor, I saw Harry over at the hospital, and he approached me and introduced himself and said, "Welcome to Grand Junction. It's great to have you here." And Harry was just a great brother and deeply admired and respected by not just me, but everyone in the community. Was on the school board and was a pastor and just a spokesman for a lot of the stuff we want to talk about today, but a man of peace.
Yes.
And he just loved people, didn't he?
He did. Yes, he did.
So when did Harry die?
He died in 2013.
13.
Yes.
It was 7 years ago?
7 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I still remember the memorial service here.
Yeah.
It was great. So, welcome, Janelle.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing about Janelle is, the reason I asked Janelle is to be in this conversation because we're going to talk about something that is really the hot button in our culture today, and we just want to address the issue of racism. And I want to read from Galatians 3:28, and it says, "We no longer see each other in our former state, Jew or non-Jew, rich or poor, male or female, because we're all one through our union with Jesus Christ, with no distinction between us." So that's really the heart of the kingdom of God, is that we would all be one, that there's no distinction between us. And as you look at your screens right now, you see someone who's yellow, me, you see someone who's black, and you see someone that's brown. And so if we're all one, why is there so much controversy in our world today over this issue of color? And so then we have Eric Gonzalez, our beloved youth pastor. And Eric, can you tell them, you grew up here in Grand Junction, tell them your family story. This is an interesting story.
Yeah, so awesome to be with you guys. But yeah, like you said, I grew up here. My mom and my dad are from Mexico. My dad is from Guanajuato, and my mom is from San Luis Potosí. Yes, I speak Spanish, barely.
Oh, you speak very well, bro.
Yeah, but yeah, grew up here. My parents moved out here, I believe, in the 80s, and then I was born 1992, and yeah, been here all my life. Grew up, went to Scenic Elementary, and then Redlands Middle School, and then Junction High School. So yeah, pretty simple.
I went to Junction as well.
Oh, you did? Go Tigers.
So I moved here from Denver originally in 1991. And so I grew up in a big city with various ethnic people groups, way more now than when I was there. So I grew up in a high school because our family actually, when I was in third grade, moved to suburbia from the Park Hill area, which at that time was predominantly black.
Wow.
And but there were some Hispanics, and there weren't many Asians, just a couple families. So one time I was like in third grade and riding my bike one day, and it was actually a group of about 6 white kids said, "Look, there's a Jap, let's go get him."
Wow.
So I remember riding my bike furiously, and I rode to the school, and there was a giant dumpster, and I hid behind it, and they go riding by. And I went home and told my parents what had happened. And, you know, the Asian culture, they talk, but we don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a couple months later, my sister and I were walking home from school, and we only lived 3 blocks away, and so it wasn't that big a deal. And a kid pulled a knife on my sister and I.
Oh my
Said,
gosh.
I'm going to kill the Japs. And so we go running home. And I didn't realize this till later, that about a month later we had moved to Wheat Ridge, which is all white. And so I lived in in my real developmental stages, I grew up in a white culture. There was only a couple Asians. One is Fran Jessup that comes here now, married to John. And I just remember that feeling of all my friends are white, and I acted white, I talked like I was white, and then I would look in the mirror, and it was that reminder, I'm not white. And my friends joked with me and stuff, and I think there were other times growing up. I was telling Jane, my wife, that I think I got in about 3 fights growing up because of my ethnic background. And so my identity was really, I would say more my self-image really struggled because I wasn't white. I wasn't 6 feet tall. And growing up in that culture was that constant reminder I'm not like them. Now, that was my experience. I'm just curious, you guys growing up here in Grand Junction, you being black, Janelle, and you being brown, what was your story of growing up in a culture like this?
Well, you know, I was born and raised here, 5th generation, and there was very few blacks, and if there was, I was related to them somehow. So, you know, there was prejudice I've seen, but I also got it from both sides, because my cousins would say to me, you're not black enough, and I'm like confused. What did that mean?
Yeah.
My mom, if you look at her, she's very light-skinned. My great-grandmother was whole Indian, and there was Irish. I was told by my great-grandmother.
Really?
Yeah, she told me, don't be surprised if I have babies with red hair and blue eyes. We got Irish in our family. So, you know, my cousin would say I would talk white, and it's like, well, how does white talk? And back in the 70s, they talked jive and stuff like that, and, you know, I was pretty much sheltered all my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't date till I was 18. I went to private school, and then, you know, went to public school. But, you know, my upbringing was a little different. I remember when I was about 7 years old, and my brother was about, I think, about 4 or 5. And we used to live right next door to Handy Chapel in the house that's right there. And this older lady came up to us, and she had a cane, and she tried to hit us. And my dog Pepsi, she was half German Shepherd and half Collie, bit her and called the cops. And we told the cops what happened.
Wow.
And he said the dog was protecting us, you know. So, you know, I didn't understand, you know, what happened because I wasn't around a lot of that, didn't have an understanding of it. And, but when I went to school, I had friends and stuff, but I would have people say, ooh, can I touch your skin? Oh, that's soft. Or, can I touch your hair? So it was like, no, why do you want to touch? You want me to touch your hair? You know, so I don't know if it was so much prejudice as not understanding.
Yeah, because you were obviously different looking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Actually, I relate a lot to the not understanding as well. Actually, like Kirk's story, because of where we grew up in Junction, there wasn't that many Latinos in my elementary school even. I was 1 out of not even 5. people would, make fun of the way I would talk or the way I would pronunciate certain things.
Yeah, because you grew up speaking Spanish initially.
Both my parents.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where the bullying and the teasing got so bad where I had to learn how to get rid of my accent, learn how to talk differently. Like you said, I almost thought white, if there's a way to think white. The way I would talk, just the initial that, I really had to change to be more like everyone else. Obviously couldn't change the color of my skin or how handsome I was, so that everyone had to put up with that. But outside of that, that was very my understanding of why there wasn't a full closure, I guess, if I could say it that way. I think the bullying really pushed me to really have identity issues and just question a lot, Kids would ask me if my parents were illegal constantly as a form of joking. I didn't know what a beaner was until I was in middle school, but they would call me that, and I was like, okay. Or I remember the first time I heard the word spick. I didn't know what that meant, and it was hard, but at the same time, I think the hardest thing was going through the identity issues that I have, or that I was going through, or the insecurities. It was just feeding me, and I don't know who I am, really, what I am. My parents say it's okay to be the way we are, but then you go out in public and it's not really as much that way. So it was pretty different, but at the same time, I was confused a little bit.
The one thing we can't deny is the impact of our culture, our cultural background, and how it forms us and shapes us. So even though I grew up in a white community like Wheat Ridge, I still had my Japanese background that gave me values, there were religious and traditional things that we would do as a family that came from those Japanese roots. I can't deny that is a big part of who I am today. And so, how did your cultural backgrounds shape who you are today?
Well, in our family, I didn't realize until after Dad passed away, because I'm, researching about our family, because Dad's dream was to write about our family history. So maybe someday I can fulfill that.
You go, girl.
But my great-grandfather, Elijah Hines, when he died in 1920, in the Daily Sentinel, on the front page said, "Born a slave, died an honored man."
Wow.
And that was back in, when you had, come on, a person of color, a black person living in an all-white community. It said who he was.
Yeah,
and then it explained so much
Absolutely.
about my dad. Then there was my Uncle David. He went to Junction High School in 1950, and he was a student body president.
Wow.
But the yearbook, that year's thing, Black Sambo. And one time a group of young men, white men, in a truck came by the house. Uncle David wasn't home at the time. But the principal of the school heard about it, and he had assembly. And he says, as long as he's principal of the school, David will remain student body president.
Wow.
And then there's my dad. My dad didn't see color. He was twice elected city councilman. He didn't put any money into it. He went by who he was, And it speaks so much about the family that I came from. That was my legacy. And so, what they have given to me, I try to pass on to my children. There's prejudice out there. There's racism out there. but you don't need to shout at each other, yell at each other. You need to have a conversation, kind of have an understanding of each other.
Yeah, our black daughter Gertie that we adopted from Haiti.
Yes.
She was verbally accosted just yesterday by a man, and so it's real.
Yeah.
I think I say this lovingly, but if you live here and you're white, you could say there's no racism in Grand Junction because you don't experience it and you don't have any racist feelings like towards us three. God bless you for that. But it's out there.
It is.
I don't know about you guys, but we call it the look.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I was trying to explain to my friend because she was kind of having a hard time. I go, okay, let me explain it to you this way. If we both go into the store, they'll go to you, oh, may I help you? And then they'll ask me, what can I do for you? There's a difference in the approach.
It's real. And now I think being Asian, I don't experience very much, but I felt it here. There's been a couple places I've been that I saw the look. And it's the old adage, if looks could kill. Yeah. It was there, right?
Yeah.
So what about for you, Eric? How do you feel your Mexican culture has impacted you?
It's impacted me. Like I said, I had a lot of identity issues. I didn't like myself. I grew to almost despise where I came from or how I was brought up because of comments. And man, my mom would fix it very quickly. I would hate my Mexican culture, and then she would fix me a plate of something. I'm like, never mind, I'm good with it. I love food too much for me not to be I hate this still, it's okay, just eat this. All right, yes, I love being Mexican. But it formed me. There was a lot of craziness going on within myself, within the way I viewed my culture, and not wanting to be part of my culture.
Yeah, I went through that myself.
And as a kid, it sucks. And then kids don't help out because they're mean. Kids are mean. And but not until, to tell the truth, not until I finally found the Lord. Once the Lord came into my life, I'm just going to say it that way. Man, he really softened my heart for people in general. And in that process, I just have this love for Latinos. I'm very much advocating, why don't we have more brown people coming to church? What can we do, Why don't we sing the song in Spanish or whatever? Although some of the ideas might be silly, it has formed me now to have this love for the people that I really belong to, and which is everyone. But when I go to Mexico, I love my wife and I going vacation out there, and man, we don't really necessarily hit the beaches. We go to what we call ranchos, little villages, and we eat the real Mexican food where it's they killed the chicken there. We were there with we went to go visit some of Erica's uncles and aunts, and we're just sitting around and, oh, do you want some mole? Do you want some mole? I love mole. Yes, I would love some. I thought they already had it made. Cool. And then they asked Erica to get up to help, and as I'm talking to her uncles, I hear this crashing and stuff. And I'm like, what is that? And then Erica walks behind me with the dead chicken. And I'm like, oh, dang, it's going to be fresh.
That's really good, right?
So, it's formed me, and I'm, to tell the truth, I'm grateful. I just want to say I'm grateful. So.
I'm the same way. I didn't really want to get involved until, unfortunately, when my dad passed away. It's I didn't have time to go to events and a Black History or anything like that. And then when he was gone, it's wait a minute, this is who I am, this is my culture, and I need to be part of it. And so that's when, I decided to get more involved. I don't know why I didn't want to when I was younger. You have your own ideas of stuff and what you want to do, but you know, it's very important to find out who you are, but that way you can educate others.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, the more we're aware of who we are, our
Yeah.
background, et cetera, the more we can have conversations
Yes,
to help people to appreciate that and
exactly.
understand it. And it goes both ways.
Yes,
You know, I know that many people here, their background's way different than mine, and I just love hearing their stories to appreciate who they are as a person. Yeah. So the obvious thing, the hot button, is unfortunately our response to the suffocation, whatever you want to call it, of George Floyd in Minneapolis. It's very fascinating of having Janelle here with us. That Janelle, you were with the Sheriff's Department here for how many years?
27 years.
27. So Janelle is now a retired law enforcement officer
Yes.
and a woman of color. So I'm very curious what your response is to what happened a couple weeks ago in Minneapolis.
Anger hurt my heart. You have no words when you saw that video, when you heard those words, you know.
Yeah.
Here it hurt because here was the person of color being treated that way. And for another, it was someone from the blue family, law enforcement, doing this to an individual. We were taught, we have the honor to protect and serve. And when you see somebody not honoring that, you know, that's a reflection on us.
Yeah.
Not that we did it, but it's still a reflection on us. You know, someone had asked me, how are we gonna solve this? How is this gonna, you know, be better, get better? And the only thing I could say is we need to educate. So one day, you know, I work in the jail, so we do our security checks. There are pods, which are housing units. And I was working in maximum security. We're like given different duties to do the day, and I was a security officer. And so there would be an officer at the panel, and then one person goes out with the inmates, check on the cells and stuff. Well, this individual was upset with me about something over food, which I had nothing to do with. It was another person. But he, you know, normally I have a good rapport with him, but he was focusing on me. So he started hanging this black effigy in the window. So for 2 weeks, you had sergeants, you had other deputies doing the security check with this black effigy hanging in the window. And he would say foul things to me. Nobody said a word. So one day I called down to the station and said, hey, can you open this door? So I just reached in, pulled it out, and the inmate ran at me, and I just calmly closed the door. And so later on, an inmate started yelling at a fellow officer, calling her all kinds of names, saying sexual innuendos. And my team was in an uproar. They were just so upset about it. So I'm just watching very calmly. So when I had a chance, when we were in the break room, I go, guys, I have a question to ask. I go, I'm not judging or anything, but I am curious. I go, so for 2 weeks we had this inmate with this black effigy in the window saying all kinds of stuff to me, but not one person did anything, not one person said a word. But then another inmate says something to our fellow officer here, and you guys are in an uproar. Why is that? And they look shocked, literally shocked. And they go, well, you take care of business. And I go, because I always had to, you know. And so one by one, they would come and talk to me, and they literally did not realize, you know, what they'd done. You know, that I told him, I go, you're not saying anything. You're letting this guy know that it's okay, that you may even feel the same way. by not speaking up. So, you know, one of the things I think will help is people speak up. You see some injustice, you see things that aren't right, someone saying something or doing something, speak up. Don't be silent, because it's saying you're okay with it. You know, don't take this event to happen to say something, you know, and don't let it be where, okay, it's died down, it's quiet, let's not say anything. Keep the conversation going. We need to.
That's very good, Janelle. Very good. How did that impact you, Eric?
My wife and I both watched it, and I think seeing the reaction of my wife set me. It did something in me. One, we literally witnessed a murder.
Well, a
Like-
live murder. It wasn't TV.
No, it wasn't make-believe nothing. I think that was the first thing I tried to get over. Was I literally just watched a man die. There were people around there. There were other officers. And to me it was like, this isn't make-believe. This isn't, it happened. This person's dead. More than anything, I don't necessarily want to just say it was someone of color. It was just a man. It was a brutal thing that happened. I know of officers watching the video and being disgusted, because like that officer should not have done that, you know. And then more than anything, I think what's shocking me the most after I saw all that is the response of the people in general. And it feels like there's two camps, you know. The people that are trying to fight this and saying, no, there's this injustice happening. And then the other half where it's almost justifying it, but at the same time, not as okay with it. It was very weird, and to me, it's just hurtful. It's hurtful because it's just a person that was murdered, you know. And I think I agree 100%. Education is very, very important. It's just, to me, it's shocking that we are in 2020 and people are still thinking that way. You know, the Jetsons were predicting that we would have flying cars by now. Imagine having flying cars, but our mentality's still the same.
You know who the Jetsons are?
Yes, I do.
You're too young to know who the Jetsons are.
I mean, they predicted all of that happening. Could you imagine if they were right? Us having robots and flying cars, but yet the mentality is still the same on how we view each other. To me, it baffles me, and I agree 100% with educating, but having compassion and loving one another. And yeah.
I found a quote from Martin Luther King. It was back in July 1962, and it says, "We are simply seeking to bring into full realization the American dream, a dream yet unfilled, a dream of equality of opportunity, of privilege, and property widely distributed. A dream of a land where men no longer argue that the color of a man's skin determines the content of his character. The dream of a land where every man will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. This is the dream. When it is realized, the jangling discord of our nation will be transformed into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood, and men everywhere will know that America is truly the land of the free and the home of the brave." This was about 58 years ago, and we're still in this level, you know? I mean, when you look at a child, you know, 2-3 years old, you see the, you know, in the nursery here at church, how they love each other. They don't care about the color. They don't care what you look like. I mean, there's such love. But then they grow up, and it's what is taught in the homes, you know? So we need to begin in the homes as well, what we teach our children, because they grow up to be adults, and then where we are.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you guys' point of view, and I know for me, watching that video, it was almost surreal to me. Like, this can't be real, that I'm actually watching this. And then watching the subsequent response, especially in bigger cities. Now, let's take out the fringe element of like the Antifa and those extremists that are utilizing the demonstrations to bring violence and looting. That is uncalled for.
Yeah.
But what I see in watching those demonstrations is something that's different than the civil rights demonstrations. That in the civil rights demonstrations, it was predominantly black, and there were a few whites that were marching with them, right? Today, in these demonstrations, there is every color out there. There's Asians.
Yeah.
There's blacks, obviously. There's Latinos. There's a lot of white.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, as I'm watching that, now I'm talking about of the peaceful demonstrators, that they're there to make a statement that something's got to change, that this is wrong. I have to admit that if I was that age, I think I'd want to be right there with them. And because I think the cry of our culture that's coming up through the youth is a cry that we got to listen to. Now, maybe not all of it is truly altruistic. I mean, a lot of them caught up in the emotion and everything. But their cry of wanting equality, to erase the color barriers, to make policy changes so that there isn't an abuse of power by governments and by law enforcement, is a cry that is very close, not all there, but it's close to the message of Jesus. And as I say that, what does that strike in you guys?
I agree with you 100%. I do agree. I have seen pain exposes so much. And we can even trace this back to the Me Too movement, you know. People got tired of the abuse of power and started speaking up. And then we started seeing change.
Yeah.
But they were crying out of pain. Same with this. Dr. Martin Luther King said, riots is the language of people that have not been heard. And when he said that, yes, I agree with you. There's some things that have happened in certain cities that is not okay. Crazy violence. But at the same time, when I have seen a lot of just different footage, and the people that are peacefully protesting but still walking and marching, a lot of them, there is a form of pain that they're expressing, and a form of we just want justice, you know. They want justice, they want to be heard, and the biggest thing is that we're seeing is we just want change, and man, it's pretty intense. It's pretty extremely intense. It's a crazy season, and what I really do love seeing is the youth, the next generation is tired of it, you know. There was a video that I saw on social media of a young white gal arguing with her parents about Black Lives Matter. And this young girl is like, no, how could you say that either they don't matter or they don't matter as much as us? Like, and you hear the conversation she's having, she's recording the whole thing. And man, this young gal just standing up and just saying no. Like, she has friends that are black. You cannot be saying those things about my friends, you know, the people that I care about. Like, we are people. And I don't know if she was Christian. I don't know if she had the Lord in her life. but she was very much talking kingdom. And I agree, Jesus is the one that just will bring all that healing. So
The whole thing of the kingdom is in Genesis 1, where the Lord says, let's create a man in our image. So the reality is all of us come from the origin of man, of Adam and Eve, and through the Lord's work, we all have moved to different parts of the world, different colors, different cultures, right? But we're all created in the image of God. And so regardless of being brown, black, yellow, or white, we're all created in the image of God. That's the gospel. That's the kingdom. And so we all should be treated the same, that Jesus died for all of us, of all colors, so that we can all be reconciled into relationship with Jesus, right?
Yes. I love that.
So what about you, Janelle, from seeing the demonstrators of different colors and different cultures all coming together? How does that impact you?
You know, that was amazing, you know, to see that. But I'm also from the Blue family.
Right.
And
I was going to get there. Thank you.
And it hurt that because of what, you know, 3 or 4 individuals, because I'm not calling them officers because they weren't, individuals did to George Floyd. It became a reflection on all law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that is not so.
Right.
That is not so. You know, I have worked with amazing individuals, you know, in different agencies. And, you know, they told me when I left, I mean, when I had my retirement party, so many people were there. And I was like in awe of it. And so it hurt that you have people that are killing officers, black officers,
Yeah.
you know, who they, you know, supposed to be justice for, you know, black lives, but yet they're killing black officers as well.
Yes,
That doesn't make sense.
it doesn't.
And they're rioting, they're looting, and they're taking away livelihood from black people.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, what is the message there?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, they say Black Lives Matter, but just a certain type of black
I
lives?
think that this is all tied together in how we make broad, generalized conclusions on a few incidences.
Yeah.
So, for us to conclude that police officers abused their power from that video with George Floyd, it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Because 99% of the police officers out there are out there to protect us and to ensure that justice is served. Can you imagine our culture if there were no police? This whole thing of, you know, get rid of the police is like, oh, do you realize what you're asking? Do you really realize that? Watch the movie Lord of the Flies.
I heard something about taking the, you know, SRO, school resource officers, out of the schools. And it's like, we need them there. We need them for that connection to the youth.
Yeah.
And you take that away.
Where they can see a law enforcement person is a person.
Exactly.
And has a good heart.
I remember years ago at Clifton Elementary School, I had went out there and I wanted to, you know, read to the children and stuff. And there was this little boy. He saw me in my uniform and he ran. And the teacher
ran
had
away.
Ran. He was literally terrified because he grew up in a home where the police were bad. And by the time I left, I said hi to him, and he said hi, but he didn't come any closer. So you need to have that connection. You need that.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's just the other side of the coin, you know. Because of the look that you talked about, you know, the look that they give us, and it's the media report on one Hispanic, right? that robbed someone or did something with drugs. And it's easy to equate all Hispanics as such.
Yeah.
Same with black people, same with Asians. It's
Like
one
saying
of-
all Asians are smart.
yeah.
I defeat that.
Or yeah. And he knows how to drive, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just joking.
I can reach the pedals.
Yeah. Whatever it is, like that grouping where people have placed each and every one of us, like, oh, he's Mexican, he's probably going to do X, Y, Z. You know, she's black, she's going to do X, Y, Z. He's Asian. It's the same thing with what's happening with the law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
One person that is wearing the badge does something wrong, and yet now everyone wants to group them. And we are saying this is what I love that they're bringing this up, is that it's not right. Not all police officers are like that.
That's the underlying foundation of racism.
Yeah.
Is we make assumptions on a person because of their color, their skin, the uniform they're wearing, so forth and so on. We all do that.
Mm-hmm.
All of us. And that's what this conversation is about, is how do we break through that to see the heart?
Yeah.
Because that's God's intent.
Well, I think what you're doing, you guys being here, having that open discussion about it, that's a start. But let's not let it go away. We need to keep it going.
Yeah.
We need to keep it going.
Yeah.
And you as a youth pastor, you have a very important job as well to discuss this with youth. Find out what their understanding or what they see. And, you know, when we all come together, you know, hopefully, you know, in our community, because we can't control what everybody else does, but, you know, this was a community that God first, his family, and he loved this community.
Oh, without
He
a doubt.
loved this community.
Without
and
a
it
doubt.
would break his heart to see it pull apart.
Yeah.
So, you know, the leaders of this community need to get together, and you guys need to you know, take care of this community. Don't let it become like other areas where there's, you know, chaos and stuff.
Yeah.
But also, we need to bring God back.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, this one thing I always do, because of my dad, he would always have a Bible verse
Absolutely.
in anything he speaks. So I saw this in Philippians 2:2-4, and it says, "Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others."
Janelle, that's the same passage that I read this morning.
No way!
Yeah, that the Lord would put that on my heart this morning.
Wow.
So that's confirmation that he's speaking to all of us
Amen.
to have the same heart, to have the same unity in spirit, because that's the thing, is the Holy Spirit is what brings the unity.
Yes.
The world brings disunity.
Yeah.
The world brings judgment and hatred. Jesus brings oneness. And that's how he completes us. So, you know, we all need people of different cultures and colors, backgrounds, family histories. We all need each other to make us more complete. And that's what I love about being able to be here with you guys, is being able to just communicate this message in a way that this is the heart of the kingdom. This is God's heart. And there is neither Jew nor Greek. And in the biblical times, that was heresy to say that there's no difference.
Yeah.
And Jesus came to abolish those barriers and those walls through what he did on the cross. And we got a champion for that. We got to give our lives for it. And the best way for us to communicate it is by love
Yes.
of all people, of all shapes, sizes, sexual orientation, color, race, nationality. It's all thrown in there that God calls us to love all humanity because He does. And He gave His life for it on the cross, right?
Right.
So let's be a people of love. Let's be a people of reconciliation, of having these kind of conversations in a way that brings the heart of the Father into it.
Amen.
Eric, thanks for being here, bro.
Thank you for having me.
It's great having someone not only from your background, your culture, but you're a little younger than Janelle and I.
Hey, hey.
But from a younger generation, I just appreciate your heart. And Janelle, God bless you for being here, driving all the way to come down from the mountain to be with us. And give my love to your family, your mom.
Well,
And it's great to have you here.
it was such an honor.
And you guys, I just want you to know, I know this seems like a little late from when the George Floyd thing happened, and we actually wanted to have this video last Thursday, but Janelle couldn't come down until today, so that's why it was delayed a week, and we just look forward to having more conversations and being able to address these issues together lovingly so that we have God's heart behind who we are and what we believe and what we do, right?
Right.
So love you guys. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you soon. Blessings.